Will you blindly follow me?
I do almost everything with my best friend. We run triathlons and 5Ks. We practice karate, and we go to WVU games together. And we love our music. On Sundays, we drink coffee and catch up on each other's busy week, and we talk about the future. We take for granted the home we've now lived in for over 11 years. My, how it has changed over the years, as have we. I've known Aaron for 17 years now. In fact, he changed my life. Aaron taught me that a relationship was built on respect, and through him, I learned to communicate my thoughts and my feelings with another individual. It wasn't the relationship my parents had, and it certainly wasn't the relationship I had with the person I was engaged to once. It was more than that. Sure, we had our ups and downs, our trials and tribulations just like everyone else, but it always comes back to one thing: the love and respect we have for each other. I often think back to that day, 17 years ago, the day that changed everything that I thought was right in the world, but wasn't really. The day that I looked at him twice, and then down at the small diamond that sat on my left ring finger. The day I made an important, life-changing decision. It is currently 2014. We have a 13-year-old and a 12-year-old. I work at NASA as an education specialist for student workshops, and Aaron is an instrumentation and electronic technician in a power plant. My time is tied up in my graduate program and traveling for work, and Aaron, he spends a lot of time fine-tuning our son's dirt bike for competitions. Together, we coach a FIRST Robotics FLL team that both of our kids are a part of. We even visited the NASA Johnson Space Center and met a real astronaut. That was pretty exciting. We ran our 4th triathlon together with our son, and we traveled 800 miles on the Hot Rod Power Tour together. We dream of the day that life slows down, and we get to enjoy each other's company more often. Maybe in one more year. It is 2012, and Aaron and I decided to take the kids to the Florida Keys. We wanted to return to the place that we told each other, "I love you," for the first time while laying in a campground tent. And we wanted to share this adventure with James and Michaela. It is 2010. Aaron loses a brother. We are devastated, and it takes a long time to recover. Aaron also runs his first triathlon in honor of his brother. This truly amazes me, and I hope to join him maybe next year. I'm not sure though. I'm getting kind of nervous because a triathlon seems like a lot. I run from time to time, but I'm not sure I can do 17 miles. Our kids, they're in 2nd and 3rd grade. I also decided to go back to school and get my teaching certificate. I fell in love with being in the classroom after a year of substitute teaching. But the weekend before I started school, I had a pretty bad accident on my bicycle and lacerated my liver. Internal bleeding meant I spent the rest of vacation in ICU all by myself. 10 years out of school kind of scared me. Being in pain the first several weeks in this new experience did not help, but I knew with Aaron's support I could do anything. It is 2007. Our oldest is starting kindergarten and our youngest preschool. We can't believe how fast time has flown at this point. It seems like just yesterday we were holding them in our arms for the first time. I began volunteering in Michaela's preschool and start thinking about what I want to do when I grow up. Up to this point, I had enjoyed staying at home and raising herb gardens and vegetable gardens. And I got really good at it too. I had become very efficient in making soaps and detergents, knitting blankets, and changing new oil in my own car. But what was I going to do? Aaron and I had decided a long time ago that my career would start when the kids started school. But I'm undecided. Maybe a wildlife biologist for the DNR. I began looking at the graduate programs at WVU. It is 2003 and we're finally able to buy our first home. We are so excited. The kids have their own rooms. Aaron becomes an expert at the Hop on Pop game, something the kids came up with and love to play. and I find out that I'm really good at freehand art and begin scrapbooking. And I long for beautiful gardens, maybe urban vegetable gardens. I'm not sure that I even have a green thumb like my grandma, but maybe I'll try. Aaron and I feel like we're finally living the American dream, our first home. It's the beginning of 2002, and the three of us are very happy. James has overcome his jaundice and belly issues and laughs all the time. In mid-January, we found out that our second child was on the way. By October, our family was complete. It was a girl, and she looked just like me. We named her Michaela Elizabeth, an old Irish name I'd picked out a long time ago. I wasn't scared this time. I was excited. I knew what I was doing. But round 2 of having a jaundiced baby with acid reflux hit really hard and really fast. I knew it was temporary, but it was exhausting with a toddler who was ready to play all the time. We started 2001 ready to begin our new family. We married in March and visited the Keys for the 3rd time. And we had our first baby, a boy. We named him James Aaron. James was an old Scottish-Irish family name. I remember that night like no other. I had just begun to realize the room was cold, and I was slowly pulling the wet rags from where my mother and mother-in-law had draped them across my sweat-soaked body. It was 1:59 a.m. I looked over at the table several feet away and stared in awe at the new life before me, cried out tears of fear. I thought to myself, I can't believe this. This is actually real? Over the next few months, I continued to be afraid of this new little life. In fact, it took me 45 minutes just to bathe him the first time. I was so afraid that I would break him. Unfortunately, 9/11 also happened in the first 3 weeks of his life, which didn't make being a new mother any easier. I constantly feared I'd have to find new ways to defend him against a war. In the meantime, Aaron was already talking about a second baby. With nights of belly issues and jaundice, I wasn't sure I was ready for a second baby. I joked with Aaron and said, only if you can promise me that this one will be a girl, and she will look just like me. He said, deal. 2000 was a whirlwind. We went to the Keys for the second time and lingered there a little longer. This time we planned for the vacation. We went for a ride on the African Queen and swam out to the coral reef to the underwater Jesus. We talked about having kids one day and our life together. We also graduated from WVU with our Bachelors of Science in Animal and Veterinary Science. And that summer we leased our first apartment, and that winter set up our first Christmas tree. We had 2 cats and we were pretty happy. Aaron asked me to marry him on Christmas Eve, and on New Year's Eve, we found out that we were pregnant with our first child. We were pretty excited. The news came fast, but it was welcome. It's the beginning of 1999, and we are starting our second semester at WVU. Aaron breaks up with me, and he breaks my heart. I understand his motive, but this doesn't make it any easier. He had been engaged himself in the past, and he was afraid that he would get his heart broken. He was trying to protect himself from being my rebound man. Or maybe, this was just my first step or my stepping stone to my new self-respect. I'm not sure. We continue to spend a lot of time together. He picks me up every morning before class, and we have breakfast together. We then spend all day in class and then study afterwards. He returns me to my apartment by dusk. On February 25th, while crossing the street, Price Street in Morgantown, I'm hit by a car going 55 miles an hour. My 110-pound body crushed the hood of that vehicle, and then I flew an additional so many feet. I hit the concrete hard. As I was in the air, I remember looking over and I remember seeing Aaron. I was so close to the house. Why was this happening to me? He didn't see me, though. I begged the driver of the car to go get him, and when he did, Aaron came running up to me with disbelief. I spent a couple of days in Ruby Hospital. By the time I was dismissed, Aaron went to my apartment and picked up all my belongings. He was bringing me back to his apartment so that he could help take care of me. The next couple of months were hard, being in pre-vet school and injured at the same time. In April, we packed up my 1988 Bonneville and we headed south during spring break. We didn't know where we were going and we didn't know how far we would make it, but we were ready for a break from pre-vet school and the harsh West Virginia winter. We landed at a campground in Key Largo with $400 to our name and we stayed 3 days. On the second evening, Aaron told me he loved me for the first time. I knew I was with the person I was meant to be with. I wondered at this point what kind of crazy life laid ahead. It's the beginning of 1998, and I know one thing. I was in love with the person that sat across from me every Tuesday and Thursday in the WVUP cafeteria. I made sure I wore my best outfits that day, and I sat attentively on every word he said. But what was even more amazing was the fact that he listened to me. He was interested in what I had to say, as well as my beliefs and thoughts. The more we got to know each other, the more I realized I had a lot in common with him. This was not something I was used to in my current relationship. I often looked down at that tiny diamond and wondered if my life would ever change. That summer, Aaron and I started writing each other a lot in secret. He asked me how I felt about him, and I told him that I did like him. By that fall, we were both at WVU, as was my fiancé. I waited till he left for his parents' house, and then I called Aaron and asked him on a date. We had so much fun that night, and by that evening, I found myself in his room. He taught me to two-step, and he heated me up a chicken Alfredo dinner. I looked at him that night, and I realized I didn't have to put up with the abuse I was experiencing. For whatever reason, I had resigned to the fact that it was normal. I was young and naive. But what would the future hold? Would I spend the rest of my life with him, or was he a stepping stone to finding my own self-respect? That night, I took that tiny diamond off my ring finger. It was September 1997, and I was busy working in the chemistry lab at WVUP when I heard the professor say, "Aaron Ford, there's a grant opportunity for students going into the veterinary field." I turned my head. Grant opportunity for vet students? I need to learn more about this. And then I saw him. Everything changed that day in the blink of an eye. I looked at him twice, and then down at the small diamond that sat on my left ring finger. I looked around the chemistry lab and then advanced to hear more about what the professor had to say. I looked over at the very young Aaron Ford, and at that moment tried to figure out how he was going to fit into the rest of my life.
Will you blindly follow me when I'm going nowhere? Will you keep your faith in me when I don't have a prayer? You've got this hold on me. Don't wanna be set free, so keep me safe and sound right here with you. You've got this hold on me, and I'm yours to keep. We'll lock ourselves away from everything, 'cause you got this hold on me.